Little stark change for the next phase, but we really have made it through all of our quilting top process. So we are on to the next entirely different process of making our quilt together. I'm Rob Appell, Michael Miller Fabrics, making it fun, and I'm super excited you've joined me for this little Q101, the step-by-step process of making a quilt, broken down into individual quick little videos, and I really hope you've enjoyed it so far. The quilt top is done, the blocks were made, the border is on, so we are now ready to baste the quilt. And again, there's a lot of different ways to tackle this, but the first thing you need to know, regardless, is you always want more quilt backing than your quilt top. Usually a couple of inches in all directions, because as we machine quilt, that patchwork we've done over here is going to stretch a little bit, and that we need to have extra backing and extra batting to catch the quilt top as it grows a little bit. So I've prepared mathematically for that. Of course, I'm going to be cutting it a little bit close because I didn't want to piece in that extra backing that would make life so simple for me, because we all know I'm right on the edge of the right quantities because the way that those really cool borders might have turned out that way. But let's dive into the supplies. I use safety pins for my basting. I love the curved safety pins. They work terrific because they do have a little curve to them. I'm going to be able to go ahead and insert them through all three layers and capture everything. You see these clamps on my table, and also the blue tape. Now, traditionally, we've used blue painter's tape to tape down the edges because we really want our backing super secure. I'm hoping you can see the wrinkles even pulled out while I did that. But if you look closely, I actually have clamps along the other side of the table as well. I've already preset those into place. And so now what we're going to do is I'm going to come to the middle of my quilt, because I have one across the table on the middle, and I'm going to secure, and then I'm going to kind of smooth and pull to the corner here and secure with the clamps. And of course, I figured out what size clamps I needed to fit in my awesome table I made myself. And you can get clamps on the internet pretty dang easy like this, but do make sure you know how wide they need to open based on how big your table is. So that's the super simple, easy part so far. I have now secured the backing. I'm looking to make sure there are no or very, very few wrinkles. And of course, I took the iron to this for quite a while to make sure that everything was flattened out. My batting itself, I like an 80-20 blend, so 80% cotton, 20% polyester. It has also been out of its bag overnight. It's been months actually, and it's just been getting as much oxygen into it or air into it as possible. So it's getting as lofty, as fluffy as possible. And again, we want to have more backing than we have, or excuse me, more batting than we have backing as well. So I'm just going to kind of toss and float this all the way out to my edges. And having a nice table or an island to work around is great, because then you really can technically walk all the way around it to secure. A lot of folks do this on the floor, and I know a lot of local quilt shops will offer their space in their shops so that you can come in and baste your quilt on their classroom tables, which is wonderful, right? So over here you can see there's the backing. Here's my batting running even longer. So I need to account for that while I'm putting my quilt top into place. And I like to take a few minutes and just pet all of the fluff and wrinkles out of my batting, but I'm hoping you notice I'm petting from the center out as I go, keeping all of the fabric manipulation moving out this way. Let's just grab our quilt while we're over here. Now we're going to drop this in. And like I said, I know I'm cutting it really close on the edges. Your side and my side, but these sides were plenty. And I can actually see and see here. So I'm going to center this down, split the difference just a little bit more. And then I start petting also the quilt top, watching the lines, making sure everything stays as secure as possible. And knowing that I have about an inch coming off of the table that I can spare. And you can see over here, I've got more room. So I'm going to lift it and float it. Just keep working it around. This is not the time to get into a rush, because if you get things out of alignment, or if you don't have your backing match up to your quilt top and you start quilting it, you will be very disappointed to find out. So just keep working it. Once you feel like you've got it fairly square to your backing, begin petting it with a bit of aggression. My cat loves it. Charlie the cat loves it when I do this. Good, good scratches. Moving all of the excess to the outer edge. And then once that's done, just the way like that, now I want to go ahead and start basically in the dead center. If you had an applique, you wouldn't want to put it right in the applique, but I bent that pin down until I felt it hit my table, and then it curves right back up. And of course, this is always fun because my kids love to pin my pins together because they know I get into this kind of trouble. And from here on, you're just going to hang loose, dudes. You're just going to do a shaka distance or about every other, or 2 rows. So I can come over here. I've skipped 2. Put one in, and now we're just going to build a grid in all directions. So I've skipped 2. Let's put one in right near the border. Let's go the other direction and pet. Skipping 1, 2, put one in. One, 2 down here. Now let's run that grid in the opposite directions, basically, or perpendicular directions. So I'm going to skip a couple, come down. Skip a couple, and same moving up, skipping a couple of our half square triangle units, giving a nice equal distance, and definitely close these safety pins because we're going to be machine quilting around these. We do not want to poke our hands while we're working. So that's secure. Now the last phase will be to come in, and everywhere where they cross, you're just going to put another safety pin. So you're basically just making safety pin graph paper. And you just kind of now fill in a quadrant, or I fill in a quadrant as I go. Back to the center, coming into my quadrant. Because what we really want to do with our machine quilting, and we'll cover that here in a little while when we get into the machine quilting portion, same as with our basting of our project. We want to work from our center out in all directions, and that keeps all of this excess bulk, this fabric, the top, the backing, the batting, everything moving out, hopefully uniformly, to prevent getting many puckers or wrinkles in our machine quilting process. I'm going to do the other side from the other side of the room. I'm sure you don't want to be looking at my backside the whole time I'm doing that, so I'll excuse myself now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back for this video, and we're going to have some fun free motion with it. Hopefully you will have been able to see that happening. The last phase of the entire quilt process is putting the binding on, and we'll have another step-by-step Q101 for binding here very, very soon. Thanks again for being here. We'll see you in another video.